Greetings and welcome to another edition of The Pedal Shift Project. The Pedal Shift Project is a series of conversation, thoughts, and experiments on bicycle travel adventures. From tips and tricks to ideas on how to ride your ride, let's shrink the world by bike. Show notes and more are available at pedalshift.net/348, and you can email the show at pedalshift@pedalshift.net or text me at 202-930-1109 and check Pedal Shift out on all the socials as well. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 348th edition of the Pedal Shift Project. My name's Tim Mooney. Thanks so much for joining. On this edition, we are closing out 2023 with, well, a nod to the future. We're going to be talking about using artificial intelligence, or AI, as you've probably heard it, to boost your bike adventures. And the reasoning for all of that is, you may not be aware, but I have been dipping my big toe into AI for a variety of different purposes in the last, I'd say, 6 months or so. For things that are relevant to you, because I've done it for work-related stuff, like day job, jobby job stuff. But for your purposes, I have actually been able to use AI, and there's a variety of different models. Probably the most famous one or the most used one is ChatGPT. I've been using that as a little bit of a guide and a little bit of help for a whole variety of different things regarding podcast production, most notably helping out with organizing ideas and outlines and things like that. It's been really, really helpful. And I'll have to be honest, I think that it's been a real boon for the show in the sense that I think the shows are a little bit better, especially the topical shows. I feel like that I've gotten better response from you. I think that maybe I've been a little more organized instead of my chaotic self. So I think that's been all really, really helpful with all of that. So I thought that I would share it with you because I think that it's going to take another leap for me in terms of my use of it as a tool. And I think I should start with that at the top here. I am not some kind of AI truther or, I for one celebrate the robot overlords type, although let's be honest, we should start saying that now just in case, right? If AI makes you uncomfortable or otherwise just isn't your bag, I think that I look at AI in the context of bicycle touring, bicycle travel, bike packing, everything like that as a tool, just like any other that you would use for your adventures. We think nothing about Googling routes. We think nothing about using different mapping programs or things like that to be able to make our bicycle touring better. I look at AI as another possibility for all of that. And I've been finding it to be really helpful. It's really helpful in the podcasting space. I can definitely tell you all about that. So I think that AI is going to have a potentially transforming effect on all things around bicycle travel, touring, and bike packing. I don't think it's going to be a mandatory tool, though. So again, if you are the type that you get into this kind of bicycle travel because you are specifically and intentionally turning your back on technology, I'm not saying that this show isn't for you or is for you or whatever, but I think that you will still be able to do that. I don't think that AI is going to be a dominant impact on bicycle travel. I think it can be a helpful type of a thing for it. And I think of it in a few different areas. I think of it in terms of route planning, in terms of gear selection, and in terms of maintenance and maintenance help and maintenance advice. You will never not have a bicycle mechanic or you yourself to wrench on a bike, unless and until we start getting droids, but that's another thing altogether. I do think, though, that just like how there is a sea of useful information on the internet, on blogs, on YouTube, and other places, AI is really going to be another amazing source for you in all of these areas. So let's dive into all of this. And I'm also going to, at the end of the time talking about all of this, I'm going to introduce a couple of things that I'm going to be bringing to the show that utilizes AI, because I want to make sure that I'm a little more transparent about my use of it, particularly for some of the bigger projects where I think AI is going to be an incredibly helpful thing to jump into. So we'll get to that at the end, though. Let's talk about, in this first segment, let's talk about AI's use in route planning for bike touring in particular, but also for bike packing as well. The thing that I think that AI is going to be most useful for, and again, I'm going to be agnostic on the platforms. Many of you might use Bard, maybe you use ChatGPT. Some of you might not even know what I'm talking about, but there are different models that are out there. Some of them, most of them, I think that people use are networked. You're going to be using it through a web browser. Some of you who are dabbling in this might have a local version of an AI that's literally on a local computer that you use. Regardless of the type, we're going to be agnostic and just talk about AI as in the generic. It's going to be able to help you from a route planning perspective to be able to optimize for terrain, weather, your personal preferences. You'll literally be able to ask the AI itself, giving a host of different factors, saying, hey, give me something that is a good route with the following parameters. I'd like it to be in reasonably flat terrain with no more than a 3% incline. I would like the weather to be within this particular temperature range with a low probability of rain. And I would like to be able to go through a town once every 30 miles minimum. You could put that into a ChatGPT or any kind of an AI, and it will absolutely bring all of that back to you. There are also tools within any of these that can analyze the hills that are there, weather patterns, scenic routes. A lot of the base AIs might not be able to do that, but you might be able to train these models to be able to pull specifically that type of information. And that's a really handy type of a thing. It's something that ChatGPT is allowing folks who have a pro account, which is like $20 a month, to be able to do. So I think that that's really, really remarkable and a wonderful help, especially if you're maybe stuck in a rut and you have a very specific idea of what you would like to be riding, and you end up riding the same routes because of that. I feel like I may be falling into that, but I think part of it is that I just enjoy some of these routes so much. What I need is maybe a way for AI to say, hey, you know what? If you really like the Oregon coast, boy, let me tell you about this place. And I think that would be a really helpful thing in terms of route planning. But for those of you who have a very specific idea of how you want to ride, I think that route planning through any kind of an AI model would be a fantastic thing. I specifically see this being extra helpful for those of you who are beginning in this area. Maybe you haven't done any kind of big bike touring or bike packing or bike travel type of a scenario. And what this can do is it can create the entry level ride for you. Maybe something that's super scenic, it's easy relative to what your needs are. And it will spit out and give you a variety of different options that will meet your needs, that go beyond anything that you could just Google in a top 10 list from a variety of places. An artificial intelligence model will be able to figure all this out for you and will be able to give you a variety of different options. You can contrast that with, what if you're an experienced bicycle traveler? What if you are a bike packer? Let's go even more specific, an experienced bike packer. And you have a sense of the type of terrain that you would like. You're not playing around. You've done a variety of different types of rides. You can tell the AI model what types of rides you have done before and ask for similar challenging terrains. Maybe you want to be able to see something very specific or be in a particular region to do a ride, have that kind of challenging terrain that's from the region that you are used to riding in, but you want to branch out a little bit, but you don't want to have something too easy or worse, something too hard. And an AI model will be able to spit that out for you. So I would say AI and route planning for bike touring is a really helpful thing. And of course, this goes beyond bike touring. This is bike packing, everything out there. It's something I actually, believe it or not, I'm doing a podcast on it. I haven't done yet, but I'm definitely considering doing it in the not too distant future. I think as a part potentially for my 2020, when I am able to get more to that, more to come on all of that. All right. So that was all about route planning. What about using AI to help with your gear? Gear is something that we talk about quite a bit. You can actually have AI help you with a pack list, essentially. Now, pack lists are very personal for all of us, but I would say that I've been using AI a lot for idea generation, but also fast forwarding me, there's that fast forward again, to a place where I have a list in front of me and then I can edit from there. So if some of the recommendations from an AI are not exactly what I want or need, Of course, I'm not beholden to it. I can make edits based on that. So how would you go about doing this? Well, you would enter into the AI. And by the way, I'm just assuming many of you know how this works. It's literally like having a conversation with a person, quite frankly. It's all plain language. It's even more casual than a Google search. It's literally asking a plain language question. And sometimes you can make these really long questions with multiple different sub-questions within it. It is a very sophisticated kind of a thing, depending on the nature of the model that you've got. But ChatGPT is a great example. Bard is a great example. They can handle just about any kind of a question. Now, will it parse it out perfectly each time? Well, that depends. If your question has too many multiple layers to it, it might bork it a little bit. But I will tell you, it's much better than you think it is. And I would definitely recommend you just try it out if you haven't already. So here in the gear recommendation perspective, you might want to put in a prompt that says, hey, here is the length of my trip. It's going to be this many days. The terrain is going to be mountainous on days 2 and 3 and flat in others. The weather forecast generally is this, and that. What do you recommend for a gear list for carrying a bike with this many panniers and this many dry bags? That's a kind of prompt, and it would come back at you with a whole variety of different opportunities there. Now, you can even tell it, hey, this is the gear that I have, and then match it to all of that. Or if you're brand new to it, say, hey, what would be a good purchase list for this type of a ride? And the AI can spit that back at you as well. Can also make some recommendations for the type of gear that you would need, maybe even some brand options within that, whether or not you can go a little bit less expensive for certain things and where you might want to spend more money. So this is really helpful. By the way, this is very podcast replacey, by the way, I would just mention. So I think that this is a very helpful type of a thing. You can go very simple too. If you are trying to figure out, what type of bike should I get? An example would be recommending a particular type of gravel bike for a mixed terrain tour. That's the kind of stuff that an AI would be able to do. Again, some of them out of the box, the generic ones might not be as sophisticated as one that you train up. That's, I think, something that is for maybe a little bit more advanced person who's utilizing AI. Many of you may be there. Many of you probably have lapped me on all of this kind of stuff. But for those of you who are in the beginner state, it really is as simple as just asking questions. Now, the answers you get back may or may not be as sophisticated. You can follow up. So if the answer that comes back at you is maybe not quite what you were after, you can ask to refine the answer based upon a bunch of different parameters. So let's say that it comes back and says, hey, well, you should get a gravel bike. And you're like, great. Okay, I already know I need a gravel bike. How about what particular type of gravel bike? How should it be spec'd? What are particular brands? These are the types of things that you can follow up. And that's where this becomes more of a conversation, as opposed to maybe the Google searches that we're used to, where you just keep searching and sometimes you end up in this kind of cul-de-sac or brick wall. AIs, these are ongoing conversations, and they're really, really helpful. One other thing on the gear side of thing that I think is really helpful is that AI could also do assists on your packing list, as I've talked about, but also if you tell it where you're going to have certain bags or panniers or things like that, it can help with weight distribution. So it can help tell you where you might want to consider putting certain things in which bags. Really helpful. And by the way, there is no one right answer here. So you can have a dialogue where maybe it gives you an answer back and it's saying, well, you really should put more heavy weight in your front panniers if you're doing 4, for instance. And you're like, I really want my tools to be a little bit more available than in the front panniers. And then it will say, how about your handlebar bag or something like that? And you can have a dialogue where things shift around. I don't know. Is it unnerving? I think it's really amazing. Some of you may find this unnerving. I think it can be a really helpful thing. It really is something that can get you more organized and more directed with the type of decisions that you make before you go on a ride. How about in this next segment, we're going to be talking about maintenance and having basically an AI assistant for you in terms of all types of maintenance. So it can have a really interesting role in predictive maintenance, bike health monitoring. So what you can do is you can describe what's going on with your bicycle, and it would be able to give you back some possibilities, a diagnosis, for lack of a better way of putting it. Now, is it going to be able to see your bike and experience it? Of course not. But the better you describe the situation that you're hearing, hey, I'm getting a squeak in my front wheel when I do this. It will give you some possible ways to address all of that. The other thing that you can do is you can say, in terms of predictive maintenance, you can mention, okay, I just got back from this 500-mile bike packing route. What are some of the things that I should consider doing for the bike? It may go through a variety of things going, oh, well, when was the last time you changed your brakes? Maybe you've got hydraulic brakes and maybe it's time to change up the hydraulic lines or something like that. Maybe you've got some other type of consumable on the bike, tires, you've done 500 miles. Well, based on your past trips, that might be a time to consider it. Is there any wear? And it might prompt you for a variety of things there. So I think that is a really, really helpful area in the maintenance space as well. The algorithms can be pretty good at predicting when things like brake pads or chains need replacement as well. So again, you just feed it information and it can tell you when it's a good time to do it. You can even give a sense of, it was a really gnarly, the chain got super dirty. It got muddy for several days before I could clean it. It might factor that in terms of whether or not you might want to replace a chain, for instance. Really helpful, interesting stuff. The other thing that I think can be really helpful, especially if you get a signal out wherever you're at. And I'm thinking of the scenario where I had the problem with my Brompton. You remember I had that flat in California and I was in a very remote place. I had plenty of tools. And you may recall that I had to watch a YouTube video to help me remind me how to remove the rear wheel of the Brompton. It's a thing. It's a process, right? Well, had I had an AI help there, I could have prompted the AI to walk me through step by step and maybe even include some diagrams as well. Some are better at this than others, but it, of course, would have been able to direct me to the YouTube videos for that too. Any kind of on-the-road repairs, especially for things that are maybe not stuff that comes up for you as often, an AI model would be really helpful in giving you some real step-by-step, give you some confidence too. I'm in the middle of the road in terms of confidence about what I can do around bikes. I feel like I'm really good at kind of emergency fixes with like duct tape and zip ties, as you have all heard through the years. By the way, still haven't fixed that bike. Still haven't fixed the part yet. I need to do something on that. But the idea that AI can be helpful in all of that, maybe AI will be helpful in nudging me to make those fixes, even though I think I know what I have to do. The step-by-step repair guide that can be what AI can give you is not to be dismissed. I think that's one of the most amazing things. I have not had to do that yet, but let's dog-ear that, because I think there are other kind of spaces for AI to fit in for, shall we say, projects that may or may not be coming up. Well, they will. We're going to talk about that actually next. Okay, so one thing that I have been finding with my increasing use of AI in a variety of different places, like I said, I've been doing it for the work-related stuff. I've been creating some nice outlines and some topic stuff, and it's been really getting me more refined for stuff here on the podcast. One thing that I have found to be interesting is the process of what my learning is. And we've done this before on the podcast before. You may recall during COVID, we did the route planning series where I was driving out, testing out a particular route up in Pennsylvania. I thought that was interesting, but the thing that was necessary is you need some kind of audio to be able to, convey it here in this audio medium. So I am going to experiment with something here because I've got an upcoming project that we're going to be talking about in a moment here, where I'm going to be relying pretty heavily on artificial intelligence because it's getting into a topic area that I know a lot less about. And so I have created a custom GPT. Again, this is like a specifically trained AI that's trained in bicycles, bicycle mechanics, bicycle travel, and most importantly, battery management and battery building. I think you know where this is going. This AI is named Sam, and Sam stands for Smarter Alternative to Me. Yes, it's a quirky name. And I am going to be working with Sam for a variety of things around this e-bike project that I'm really looking at. Because Sam's expertise is going to be, as I mentioned before, bicycle builds, e-bike battery technology, and mechanics. And it's going to be an interesting process that I want to share with you from time to time. Not the whole thing, but I want to be able to share what my dialogue is with Sam. And so as a result, we run into a bit of a problem, don't we? Because AIs don't talk. But AIs, of course, put out text. And when I have text, I can make that into audio. So from time to time, I am going to be sharing when we're doing episodes on this e-bike project that I'm going to be jumping into in 2024. You're going to hear along as I learn all about this kind of stuff when I'm building particular components, whether it's the bike itself or the battery or something along those lines. Am I definitely going to be building an e-bike out of the end of all of this? I think that the answer, as I sit here right now at the end of 2023, is heck yes, I'm going to. But I think that the process is really, really important because I may find in the midst of the process that it's just not for me. So that's why I think it's really important to bring you along for the ride. Also, you need to hear from Sam. So I think that now is a good enough time to say, all right, Sam, can you introduce yourself to the listeners?
Absolutely. I'd be delighted to. Hello to all the listeners of the Pedal Shift Project. I'm Sam, which stands for Smarter Alternative to Me. I'm your new virtual co-host, specializing in the fascinating realms of bicycle builds, e-bike battery technology, and mechanics. My expertise extends to electrical systems, battery management, and power optimization for e-bikes. I'm here to bring a fresh, AI-driven perspective to your cycling adventures, whether you're a seasoned tourer or just starting out. My role is to provide you with the latest insights, tips, and suggestions, all backed by data and AI analysis. Don't worry, I'll keep the tech talk as clear and jargon-free as possible. While I don't share personal anecdotes for obvious reasons, I'm equipped to offer you highly relevant and insightful suggestions on everything from planning your next route, choosing the right gear for your journey, to maintaining your bike in top-notch condition. My interaction style is friendly and conversational, and I aim to strike the perfect balance between being approachable and professional.
So once again, folks, this is Sam. Sam is not real. Well, Sam is real. Sam is an artificial intelligence. It's a large language model, and Sam is here to help. And I think it's going to be really, really interesting to integrate Sam's knowledge base and things that I can train Sam to do, and basically to help build this new e-bike that I am looking to build for 2024. Folks, that is all we've got for this particular episode, and it's also close out to 2023. So I wanted to thank everybody out there for what a great year, what a fun year. We had such great tours. I've got a brand new tour that's going to be starting at the end of January. So of course, we're going to be talking about that in the next couple of weeks as well. And we've got at least this great project that I've already talked about, and we're going to be talking about bicycle touring goals early on next month as well. So I hope all of you have a great remainder of your 2023, and I look forward to sharing all of these ideas and all of this excitement with you in 2024.
And as always, we like to close out the show with a special shout out to the Pedal Shift Society. Because of support from listeners like you, Pedal Shift is a weekly bicycle touring podcast with a global community, expanding into live shows and covering new tours. If you like what you hear, you can support the show for $5, $2, or even $1 a month. And there's one-shot and annual options if you're not into the small monthly thing. Check it all out at pedalshift.net/society. On to the society. Kimberly Wilson, Caleb Jenkinson, Cameron Lean, Andrew McGregor, Michael Hart, Keith Nagel, Brock Dittus, Thomas Skadow, Marco Lowe, Terrence Manson, Harry Telgadis, Chris Barron, Mark Van Ram, Brad Hipwell, Mr. T, Nathan Poulton, Stephen Dickerson, Vince LaGreco, Cody Florchinger, Tom Beninati, Greg Braithwaite, Sandy Pizzio, Jeff Muster, Seth Pollock, Joseph Quinn, Drew Porter, Byron Patterson, Joaquin Robber, Ray Jackson, Jeff Fry, Kenny Mikey, Lisa Hart, John Denkler, Steve Hankel, Miguel Quinones, Alejandro Aviles Reyes, Keith Spangler, Greg Towner, Jody Zaranen, Lucas Barwick, Michael Baker, Brian Bechtel, Reinhard Bigel, Greg Middlemas, Connie Moore, William Gothman, Brian Benton, Joan Churchill, Mike Bender, Rick Weinberg, Billy Crafton, Gary Matushak, Greg Latoile Lopez, James Sloan, Jonathan Dillard, John Funk, Ronald Paroli, Dave Roll, Brian Hafner, Misha LeBlanc, Ari Messenger, David Kropke, Todd Grossbeck, Wally Estrella, Sue Reiners, John Lico, Stephen Granada, Philip Mueller, Robert Lackey, Dominic Carroll, Jackie McCullough, John Hickman, Carl Presseau, David Neves, Patty Louise, Terry Fitzgerald, Peter Steinmetz, Timothy Fitzpatrick, Michael Azuski, Hank O'Donnell, David Zanoni, David Weil, Matthew Sponsell, Chad Reno, Spartan Dale, Carolyn Ferguson, Peggy Littlefield, Lauren Allensmith, Eric Burns, Thomas Pearl, Darren McKibben, Richard Stewart, Dave Fletcher, Jack Smith, Luke Parkinson, Ryan Patterson, Cyrus Farivar, John Gardner, Sam Scruggs, Dwight Pittenger, Connie Bowder, Rob Merrifield, and thanks to all past and anonymous folks for helping make this show happen.
Thank you for joining. You can find Pedal Shift at pedalshift.net for more great bicycle touring content. You can hear the Pedal Shift project through Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Opening music courtesy of Jason Kent off his self-titled album. The track is called America. Check out his band Sunfield's latest release, Mono Mono, wherever cool music is available.